Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I think is a little bit more special because we will be making this heady pendant. Now honestly, this was not the plan, but I kind of made a mistake with the frame and then I just went on with it, In a way, we will be learning how to make this together. By the way, this is an intermediate to advanced project. So if you are looking for something more simple to make, I have a few videos you can watch on the channel later on. So with all that said, let's get started. For today's project, I will be using this beautiful dyed labradorite that was sent to me by today's sponsor, stonescard.com. The size is around 38 by 20 millimeters. By the way, StoneScard is giving a 10% discount on any of your purchases plus a free stone when you use the code MAJ10 upon checkout. So do check them out and the link is down below in the description. For this project, I'll be using 34 centimeters of 16 gauge square in half hard as my frame wire. Now, this is quite a complex frame, but please do bear with me. Here, I've created a V shape in the middle of the wire. And now, using a marker, I'm marking where I'm going to fold it. Whenever I do this, I always take in consideration the spaces in between the stone and the frame, because I need to make sure that there is enough space to wrap the wires around it. Now I'm going to take 10 centimeters of 18 gauge half round in half hard to put the wires together. This will serve as the back of the stone and will keep the stone from falling off. Also, this will keep the wires in place as we maneuver our wires around it. Now, here is where I made a mistake. Basically, I made the top half of the frame a bit too big. And so I was forced to fill it in with other design elements and another stone. The original plan was to make this one, which is a piece that I made maybe a year ago. But yeah, that didn't happen. But it's still the same idea. So if you do plan to make something similar to this one later on, like how we say it here in Dubai, it's same, but different. Next, I am folding the remaining wires upward to create the bail. And as usual, I'll be using another piece of 18 gauge half round to keep the wires together. Now I'm going to take 24 centimeters of 18 gauge dead soft wire to create the lower back of the piece. Here, I'm using a round nose plier to fold the wire in half and create a loop. And with these needle nose pliers, I'll be straightening the lower part of the loop to open them. Next, I'll be placing the loop around the top of the triangle and start wrapping the wires around the frame. Remember to always straighten your wires after wrapping them with a nylon tip plier for a clean wrap. Here I'm taking another 24 centimeters of 18 gauge dead soft square to wrap around the lower portion of the frame. You can just follow along the video as I go with this part.
Please don't ever leave me.
Okay, so now I'm going to move over and create the back of the top portion of the frame. Here I'm cutting two pieces of 18 gauge square to create the back by placing them horizontally around 1 centimeter apart. Next, I'm going to take a piece of 14 gauge half round in dead soft to trap the top part of the stone. This helps stabilize the piece before continuing on. Nowadays, I do find that if I secure the main stone first before working around it is much easier than securing it little by little as I go. This also reduces the risk of the stone from breaking because it's already stuck in the frame while I wrap. Now that I've secured the top of the stone, I'm going to continue wrapping the wires at the bottom. At this point, it's really up to you how you want to wrap the bottom part. You can even add more wires if you want, or add a weave as well, if that's your preference.
Please don't ever leave me.
Now it's time to continue the top half of the piece. Here I've made a double coil using a 22 gauge square as the base, 28 gauge round for the coil, and a 26 round to fill in the gaps in between the spiral. I know I should show you how I actually make these coils, but I'm kind of lazy to do another setup just for that. But one of these days I will be making a dedicated video on coiling and weaving, so please do stay in tuned for that. Here, I'm going to connect the double coil around the top of the stone. So as I said earlier, I made a mistake with the frame. So I decided on adding another stone on top to fill in the gap. And I've chosen this teardrop green labradorite to complement the purplish pink labradorite, which is the main stone. And in order to secure this, I'll be taking 2 pieces of 14 gauge to place at the back of the horizontal wires.
Please don't ever leave me.
The next thing I'll be doing is to fold the bale forward to trap the stone. And as you can see here, I've made another mistake with the length of the wires, and they can't reach the anchor points of the horizontal wire, which is this one. So in order to fix that, I'm going to bend the wire upward until it creates something like an M shape so that I can connect the ends of the bale around it. Next, I'll be taking 3 pieces of 20 gauge dead soft wire and create something like a pyramid weaving pattern. With this weave, I'll be using 26 gauge as my weaving wire. And in order to do this weave, I'll be coiling twice at the bottom wire, twice around the bottom and the middle wires, and twice around all 3. And then I'll be going back down in steps and repeat the process. I'm not sure how many sets I'm making here, but it should be enough to cover the top of the double coil I made earlier. Next, I'm going to take a piece of 20 gauge square and fold one end of it to prepare for coiling. For the coil, I'm using 22 gauge half round. Oh, and by the way, for those who are wondering, these are called KUMIHIMO bobbins, and they're extremely useful when it comes to weaving. I've put a link down below in the description if you are interested in getting some, which I highly recommend. Anyway, I'm starting to coil a few times where I folded the wire, and then I'm going to use a hand drill to make things easier.
Please don't ever leave me.
Now, once that's done, I'm going to connect one of the ends on the top horizontal back wire, start creating a swirl clockwise, and then connect the other end beside the pyramid weaves. Again, if you guys are having a hard time with swirls, I have an extensive tutorial on it, which is linked below as well. Next, I'm going to take another 20 gauge square, connect it in the middle of the first swirl, and just follow along the same lines to create a little bit of bulk. Next, I'll be using a piece of 14 gauge half round and do exactly the same thing with the square wire earlier. Now, since this is a symmetrical piece, I'll be doing the other side off camera to save time. Otherwise, it'll just be repetitive. Now, this part is completely optional, but for me, I like putting just bare non-woven wires in between weaves to create separation between them, kind of like an outline. You can use any type of wire, but if you are going to use a round wire, use at least an 18 gauge, and I would suggest hammering it after you shape it. Trust me, it's going to look really good. In my case, since I'm a bit lazy and already frustrated that I made a huge mistake with this piece, I'll just use a 14 gauge half round to do it. Next, I'm going to add some beads in between the waves and the weaves. With this, I'm using a 2, 3, and 4 millimeter copper bead with a 26 gauge round wire. One trick that I use when it comes to beads is I thread the wire twice, just like this. This keeps the beads from moving around freely, and at the same time, it'll be easier to shape them. In this case, I'm creating a curve.
Please don't ever leave me.
And yay, we are almost done. This is the last section. So I'm going to be using another piece of 20 gauge square and a 14 gauge half round to create a 3D swirl, much like the ones above it. The only difference is I'm only using 2 base wires instead of 3 because I want the swirls to be smaller than the ones on top. And there you have it. I'm finally done making this headpiece. I know it looks intimidating at first, but if you work in smaller sections, it's quite easier to construct pieces like this. If there's one thing we all can learn from this tutorial, it's don't be scared of making mistakes. Learn from them, and also you can improvise, just like what I did here. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I hope you were able to learn something new today. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment down below if you have any suggestions or would just like to say hello. Any of the tools I'm using are all written down below at the description. And if you're looking for beginner-friendly tutorials, you can click on the playlist that's flashing right now. Again, thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Happy rapping! Bye!